Welcome back, weary traveler. Tonight's journey takes us down a shadowed path, into a world built of marble and might, but cemented with the quiet sorrow of forgotten lives. We are going to listen to their echo. Before we step onto that path, I'm always so curious. Where in the world are you listening from tonight? Let me know in the comments below. As our community gathers, a simple like is always a welcome kindness. And as always, only if you feel a genuine connection here. I would be truly honored if you would subscribe and join our traveler's family on these journeys through time. Now, find your comfortable space, settle in, and let's begin. It begins not with a sight, but with a sound. A single dog barking sharp and frantic somewhere in the sleeping quiet of your village. Then another joins in, and another. It's a discordant chorus that slices through the pre-dawn stillness. A sound of wrongness that has you sitting up in the darkness, your heart suddenly a cold stone in your chest. The air grows thick with a smell you know but can't place. Not wood smoke from a friendly hearth, but something else. Acrid, angry. Then comes the shouting. It's a language you don't understand. Guttural and sharp-edged. The words themselves sounding like weapons. And beneath it all, a new sound, the hungry crackle of fire. You don't have time to think. The world dissolves into a nightmare of sensory fragments. A door splinters inward off its leather hinges. Figures fill the space, large and dark against the growing orange light from outside. You see the glint of firelight on a cruel-looking axe, the wildness in a bearded face, eyes that look at you not as a person, but as an object. The heat is a physical blow, pressing in on you, stealing the air from your lungs. The shouts are everywhere now, a wall of incomprehensible noise. There is screaming, high and thin and terrible, and for a horrifying moment you realize some of it is your own. You are hauled from your home, the rough weave of a tunic scraping your skin. The cool night air is a shock against your face, but it is heavy with smoke and chaos. The world is a blur of running figures and burning thatch. Your home, the place of your birth, of your entire world, is a roaring pyre against the dark sky, spitting embers that dance like malevolent stars. You try to run, to fight, to do something, but your limbs are clumsy with terror. There is no strategy here, no clear enemy to face, only an overwhelming tide of violence. Then, the moment of absolute powerlessness. Rough hands, strong and indifferent, seize your arms. You are thrown to the dusty ground, the impact knocking the wind from you. Your arms are wrenched behind your back with a brutal efficiency that speaks of long practice. You feel the bite of a rope, coarse and unforgiving, as it's wrapped tightly around your wrists, cinching your freedom away in a few swift motions. It is a terrifyingly simple act. One moment you are a person, and the next you are property. You are nothing. They pull you to your knees. And in the sudden, strange stillness of your own capture, you look up. You see your world ending. The homes of your neighbors are engulfed in flame. The shadows of the raiders move with a terrifying purpose amidst the chaos. You see faces you have known your entire life, contorted in fear, or worse, already still, upon the ground. This is it. This is the final look. The last image of home you will ever have is this canvas of fire and death. A rough hand yanks you to your feet. The march begins. You are pushed forward into a line of other captured souls. A shuffling, weeping column of the newly broken. With every step you take, the sounds of the dying village fade behind you, replaced by a new, terrible rhythm. The soft clinking of chains, the scuff of feet in the dirt, and the long, slow journey into the dark. The world shrinks to the space directly in front of you. Your entire existence becomes the dusty heels of the person ahead, the unyielding pressure of the rope on your wrists, and the vast, indifferent sky above. The terror of the raid has burned away like the initial heat of a fire, leaving behind only the cold gray ash of despair. The first few days are a blur of misery. Your feet, at first aching, then screaming in protest, have now settled into a deep, permanent throb. Every step sends a jarring pain up your legs, but you do not stop. You cannot stop. The gnawing emptiness in your stomach has become your constant companion, a dull ache that twists and turns. Water is a distant memory, a desperate fantasy you dare not dwell on. When it is given, it is a mouthful of lukewarm, brackish liquid. From a shared skin, just enough to keep you moving, never enough to quench the deep, desperate thirst. How many days has it been? You try to count the suns, but they melt into one another. A single, relentless cycle of searing light and chilling dark. You have lost your name. You are no longer you. You are part of the line, a body, a pair of feet, a vessel of exhaustion. You catch the eye of the woman shuffling next to you, and you see your own reflection in her hollow gaze, the same resignation, the same extinguished spark. There is no comfort in this shared experience, only a deeper confirmation of your utter dehumanization. The captors move around you with a terrifying lack of emotion. They are not cruel for the sake of it. They are merely practical. They are herdsmen and you are their livestock. They push you forward with the butt of a spear, not in anger, but with the same flat indifference they might use to nudge a stubborn goat. They see you, but they do not see you. This is a deeper kind of violation, to be rendered so completely invisible. The landscape itself becomes a form of torture. The familiar green hills and dense woods of your homeland have long since vanished, replaced by an endless expanse of cracked, ochre-colored earth and sparse, thorny scrub. The sun beats down from a white-hot sky, and there is no shade, no escape. The very ground beneath your feet feels alien, hostile. Even the stars at night seem wrong, rearranged in cold, unfamiliar constellations. Every new vista, every change in the scent of the air is a fresh wound, a confirmation of the impossible distance growing between you and everything you have ever known. Hope dies slowly out here on this dusty road. It does not vanish in a single moment, but erodes away, grain by grain, with every monotonous step. You stop thinking about rescue. You stop thinking about escape. You think only of the next footstep and the one after that. A dull ache in your soul matches the ache in your body. And then, one day on the hazy horizon, you see it. A smudge of darkness that slowly, over hours of marching, resolves into the impossibly high walls and towering structures of a city, larger than anything you could have ever imagined. The march is ending. You have arrived at the heart of the empire. And as you are herded toward its massive gates, a new cold dread begins to bloom in your chest, a premonition that the horror of the journey was only a prelude to the horror of the destination. The air in the city was thick and strange, but here in the slave market, it is a suffocating blanket of smells and sounds. The sweetness of rotting fruit and spilled wine mingles with the sharp tang of sweat, fear, and unwashed bodies. There is a din of 100 conversations, a cacophony of languages you don't know, punctuated by the sharp clinking of coins and the lowing of tethered livestock. You are shoved into a crowded pen with others, the chalky white paste smeared on your feet feeling cool and damp. An older man beside you, his eyes clouded with a resignation you are not yet ready for, whispers that the chalk marks you as novitiate, new, unschooled, fresh from the provinces, freshly broken. Soon your turn comes. You are prodded with a wooden staff and forced up a short flight of steps onto a raised circular platform. The wood is rough and splintery beneath your bare, bruised feet. And then you are there, exposed. The noise of the market seems to recede to a dull roar, as a new, more terrifying sensation takes over. The feeling of being watched. 100 pairs of eyes are on you, crawling over your skin like insects. They are not the eyes of fellow humans seeing your plight. They are the calculating, appraising gazes of shoppers. They look at your body not as a vessel for a soul, but as a collection of parts for a purpose. They are assessing your worth. An auctioneer, a man with a booming voice and a bored expression, begins his call. He stands beside you, listing your attributes as if you were a horse. He points to your arms, to show their strength, your legs to show their sturdiness. He pulls back your lips to display your teeth to the crowd, a gesture so profoundly animalistic that a wave of hot shame washes over you, so powerful it almost brings you to your knees. Potential buyers are invited onto the platform. A man with eyes Soft, fleshy hands and expensive rings squeezes the muscle on your arm. A woman with a sharp, pointed face circles you, her eyes narrowed before prodding your back with a cold finger. They do not speak to you. They speak about you, over you, as if you are deaf and senseless. And in your mind, you scream. You scream the story of who you are. A child of the forest, a weaver of baskets, a singer of songs, a person with a name and a family. But on the platform, you are silent, a statue of mute humiliation. The bidding begins. The auctioneer's voice finds a new rhythm, a rising chant of numbers you don't comprehend but whose meaning is terrifyingly clear. Shouts come from the crowd. A man in a military cloak raises a hand. A merchant across the way counters. Your value, your entire future, is being bartered for in a public spectacle. You try to disconnect, to retreat into that quiet place in your mind, but the raw, visceral reality of it is unavoidable. You are a commodity. Your life's labor, your obedience, your very body, is being sold to the highest bidder. Then, with a sudden final violence, a wooden gavel strikes a block. The sound cracks through the air like a whip. The bidding stops. A man in a simple dark tunic has won. The auction is over. Your life has been sold. A firm hand clamps onto your upper arm, and you are pulled from the platform. Your feet stumbling on the steps. You are led away, the market's noise already fading behind you as you follow your new master. He does not speak to you on the walk, through the city's bewildering streets. He walks ahead, and you simply follow, a shadow now tied to his will. You arrive at a tall house set behind a stone wall, and it is only after he has passed through the heavy wooden door that he finally turns to you. He looks you over, his gaze practical, his mind clearly on the tasks you will perform. He does not ask for your name. He gives you one. Your name is Felix, he says, the word foreign and meaningless to you. It is a common slave name, one that means lucky. The irony is a cold, sharp stone in your gut. Felix. The name hangs in the air, a cloak that does not fit. You nod dumbly, because you must. But in the silent, secret chamber of your heart, you whisper your real name. The name your mother sang to you. The name that tastes of wood smoke and wild berries. The name that means daughter of the tall trees. It is the only thing they have not taken, this small, invisible treasure. You clutch it to yourself as you are handed over to an older slave. A woman with weary eyes who seems to be the household manager. She leads you through the main courtyard. The floor is not dirt, but cool, smooth marble that shocks your battered feet. The air smells of baked bread, olive oil, and something floral, like lavender. It is a world of quiet, ordered luxury, but it feels more like a prison than the open-air pen of the market. Its beauty is a mockery, a cage gilded in sunlight and wealth. You are led past rooms with vibrant paintings on the walls and soft-looking couches, down a narrow corridor to the back of the house. Here, the air is cooler, damper. The elegant decoration disappears, replaced by bare stone and dim light. The woman stops before a small, windowless room containing little more than a few straw pallets on the floor. "This is where you sleep," she says, her voice flat, devoid of pity or kindness. "The first bell is before sunrise. You work until the last bell. You do what you are told. That is all." She turns and leaves you there, her sandals slapping softly against the stone floor until the sound disappears. You stand alone in the doorway of your new life, a stranger with a stranger's name. And as you finally step across the threshold, it feels as if a great heavy door is swinging shut on your entire world, closing out the sun and locking you in the dark. Your life in the villa was short-lived. You were not bought for domestic service, but merely as stock to be sorted and reassigned. One morning you are chained to a dozen other men and marched out of the city. The journey is long and the landscape grows harsher, more barren. You arrive not at a farm or a grand estate, but at a wound in the earth. The ground for miles around is scarred and pitted, heaps of gray rock piled like the bones of dead giants under a pale, unforgiving sun. Before you is a dark, squat opening in the side of a mountain, a man-made cave shored up with thick, splintering timbers. This is the entrance to a Spanish silver mine. This is your new home. An overseer with a face like chipped stone hands you a small clay lamp. It's little more than a bowl of foul-smelling oil with a floating wick, and its light is a pathetic, flickering thing that seems to make the shadows deeper. He points towards the opening, the throat of the earth, and with a rough shove you begin your descent. The first few steps are down a sloping tunnel, but soon it becomes a steep, narrow shaft with crude steps carved into the rock. You go in, single file, the man in front of you a dark shape, the man behind you breathing heavily. The sliver of daylight from the entrance shrinks with every step, from a wide promise to a small, distant star, and then it is gone. You are consumed by a darkness so absolute, so heavy, that it feels like a physical substance. The air begins to change. It grows thick, hot, and difficult to draw into your lungs. It's stolen air, tasting of metallic dust, lamp, oil, and the stale sweat of countless bodies. The walls of the shaft press in so close you can feel their damp, cold breath on your shoulders. You steady yourself with a hand against the rock, and it is slick with a constant greasy dampness. A rhythmic plink, plonk, echoes from somewhere in the oppressive silence, the sound of water dripping from the rock ceiling into a puddle you cannot see. It is the only landmark in this timeless, sightless world. The weight of the mountain above you becomes a tangible presence, a crushing pressure on your mind, on your very soul. A question forms in the quiet terror of your heart, a cold whisper you dare not give voice to. Will you ever see the sun again? Will you ever feel its warmth on your face? Or is this it? Is the rest of your life to be lived and ended in this suffocating blackness? After a descent that feels like an eternity, the shaft opens into a wider gallery. The heat is immense, and the air is a noxious cocktail of scents. Here, the darkness is dotted with the faint, smoky lights of other lamps, and in their dim, wavering glow, you see them. The other workers. They move like ghosts in the gloom. Their bodies lean and wiry, glistening with sweat and grime. You see faces, briefly illuminated as they pass, with hollowed-out eyes and expressions worn down to a permanent, dull exhaustion. There is no conversation here, only the rhythmic, metallic clang of pickaxes against rock, a sound that echoes from deeper unseen tunnels. It is the heartbeat of this underground hell. An overseer points you towards a narrow seam of glistening rock, a dark fissure in the wall no wider than your own body. A heavy pickaxe is thrust into your hands. Its wooden handle is worn smooth by the grip of countless others before you. The initial shock of this place begins to recede, replaced by the grim understanding of your purpose here. You are not meant to live here. You are meant to be consumed here, chipping away at the earth's riches until it chips away the very last of you. You face the rock. It is a wall of glittering darkness, indifferent and ancient. The pickaxe feels heavy and alien in your hands, its balance all wrong for your unpracticed muscles. You take your first swing. It's clumsy. The shock of the impact doesn't just stop at your hands. It's a jarring, painful wave that shoots up the bones of your arms and explodes in your shoulders. A few pathetic chips of rock fall to the floor, and you begin again. You lift the pick, you swing. The rock resists. The jarring shock returns. You lift, you swing. A small crack appears. You lift, you swing. This becomes the rhythm of your life, the only clock you have. Your own ragged breathing, the grunt of effort, and the percussive rhythmic clang of iron on stone. The sound of your labor joins a chorus of dozens of others, a constant, echoing din that fills the hot, stagnant air. It is the sound of the mountain being slowly, painfully dismantled. Your thoughts, your memories, your name whispered in the secret part of your mind. They all fade, ground down into nothing by the hypnotic, brutal repetition. There is only the lifting, the swinging, the jarring shock, and the film of grit that begins to coat your tongue. The hours, or what pass for hours in this sunless world, grind on. The ache in your shoulders, once a sharp protest, settles into a deep, permanent fire. The muscles in your back twist into tight, agonizing knots. Your hands, which had been scraped raw on the march, are now blistered and bleeding anew around the rough wood of the handle. Every breath is a dry, dusty rasp, pulling the sharp-edged dust deeper into your lungs. Exhaustion is no longer a feeling. It is the state of your being. It is in your blood and in your bones, a weight far heavier than the rock you are chipping away. Suddenly, a cry from the overseer, sharp and urgent. A low, groaning sound fills the cavern, the sound of the brittle bones of the earth shifting under their immense weight. You look up and see a cascade of dust and pebbles raining from the ceiling. Instinct, not thought, makes you flatten yourself against the wall. A moment later, a boulder the size of your own torso crashes onto the spot where you were just standing, shattering into 100 pieces. The air is thick with dust. Your heart hammers against your ribs. But there is no time for relief, no moment to comprehend your near death. The overseer is already shouting, his voice echoing in the confined space, ordering you back to the rock face. Your life is worth less than a moment's pause in the work. When the shift is finally over, you are herded into a larger chamber. A figure ladles a murky, lukewarm liquid that might be soup into a wooden bowl and shoves a piece of hard, dark bread into your hand. This is your reward. It is not enough to ease the gnawing emptiness in your belly, only enough to fuel the machine of your body for another 12 hours. As you swallow the gritty food, the taste of rock dust is still there. There is no escape from it. You have become part of the mine, and the mine has become part of you. You do not know how much time has passed before you are taken from the darkness. One day, you are simply chained in a different line, and you march, blinking and stumbling, back into the blinding light of the sun. But your destination is not freedom. After another long journey, you arrive at your new prison. It is the opposite of the mine in every way, and yet, it is the same. There is no pressing darkness, only an endless aching light. There are no narrow tunnels, only a horizon that never, ever gets closer. You are standing at the edge of a latifundium, a vast agricultural estate. Before you lies a shimmering golden sea of wheat, stretching in every direction, so vast it seems to swallow the sky. And in that moment, you realize that a cage does not need to have walls. The sun is a physical weight, a relentless tormentor that beats down on your neck and back from the moment it rises to the moment it sets. There is no shade, no refuge. The work is different, but the soul-crushing rhythm is the same. You are given a small, curved sickle. You bend at the waist, a motion that pulls at the damaged muscles of your back. You grasp a thick handful of wheat stalks. You slice, you drop the bundle and move a single step forward. You bend, you grasp, you slice. All day long, your world shrinks to this single, repeated motion, while the sea of wheat around you never seems to shrink at all. A constant, menacing presence patrols the edges of your vision. The overseer on horseback. He sits tall against the bright sky, a dark silhouette of authority, his shadow sweeping over the fields like a slow-moving cloud. He rarely shouts, for he does not need to. His power is in his silent presence, in the way he watches, a constant reminder of your bondage and the utter futility of escape. Where would you run? There is nowhere to go but into more fields under the same relentless sun. You are a single drop of water in an endless ocean of labor. As the sun finally touches the impossibly distant horizon, staining the sky orange and purple, a horn sounds. The work is done for the day. You straighten your back, an act that sends a jolt of pure agony through your body. You join the slow, silent river of other workers, hundreds of you, all shuffling through the dust of the earth you have been toiling in. Your destination is a long, low, fortified building in the distance, the ergastulum, the barracks. As you approach, you can smell the familiar scent of sweat and exhaustion. You step through the gate and into the dim, relative cool of the interior, and the heavy wooden door swings shut behind you, locking you in for the night. You have simply traded one prison for another. You are moved from the vast, open prison of the fields to a new kind of hell, one carved into the side of a mountain. This is a quarry. The first thing you notice is not the sight, but the sound. It is a physical assault, a deafening clang and shriek that hits you like a wave. It is the sound of 100 iron hammers striking 100 iron wedges, of stone grinding against stone, of men shouting to be heard over the chaos. The entire place is a raw, bleeding wound in the white flesh of the mountainside, and the air shimmers with heat and a constant percussive violence. You are no longer drowning in silence and sun. You are drowning in noise. You are given a heavy, long-handled hammer and shown a line of metal wedges already driven deep into a seam of marble. Your task is brutishly simple. You must strike them, one after another, in a relentless rhythm, until the stone's internal tension gives way. You lift the heavy hammer over your shoulder and bring it down with all your strength. Clang. The vibration is a lightning bolt that flashes up the handle, through the bones of your arms, and rattles your teeth. You stumble back, your hand stinging, but the overseer just points. Again you swing, clang, again clang. The world shrinks to the head of the wedge, the weight of the hammer and the ringing in your ears. The air you breathe is thick with sharp white dust that coats your skin in a ghostly layer, fills your nostrils, and makes every breath a dry, painful fire in your throat. The work is a frantic, jarring dance with danger. The groans and cracks of the splintering stone are a constant language of threat. An overseer shouts, and you see the men beside you scrambling back. A massive block of stone, many times your own weight, has broken free. It teeters for a heart-stopping moment before crashing down onto the ledge below, showering the area with sharp, deadly splinters. The block is undamaged. The overseer seems pleased. Your own survival is an irrelevant side note to the successful extraction of the stone. You are simply ordered back to the new rock face, your heart still pounding a frantic rhythm against your ribs. At the end of the shift, as the punishing noise finally subsides, you have a moment to simply look. You lean against the rock wall, your entire body trembling with exhaustion, and you look at the fruit of your labor. It is a perfect block of marble, its newly exposed face impossibly clean and white, streaked with delicate veins of gray. You reach out and touch its surface. It is cool, almost soft, despite being born from such violence, and a deep, bitter irony floods your soul. This stone, quarreled with your blood and the constant threat of your death, will become something beautiful. It will be carved into a column for a temple where men pray to gods of justice. It will become the smooth, tiled floor of a villa where a wealthy family dines in comfort. It will be shaped into the serene face of a statue, its beauty a direct product of your ugliness and suffering. You wonder, as you watch it being hauled away, which piece of the grand city your spirit will be broken upon. Your journey takes you from the mountain to the heart of the city itself. You are brought to a large, windowless building, from which a low, groaning sound emanates. This is a pastrinum, a commercial mill and bakery. The moment you step inside, the air becomes a tangible thing, a heavy, choking cloud of flour dust that immediately coats your tongue and clings to the back of your throat. You are led to a massive stone mill, shaped like a giant hourglass. A thick wooden beam juts from its side, and with a humiliating lack of ceremony, a heavy wooden yoke is settled onto your shoulders. You are now, officially, a beast of burden, tethered to the machine. Before you can even adjust to the crushing weight, a set of leather blinders are fitted over your head, stealing your peripheral vision and leaving you with only a narrow view of the dusty floor. You are shoved forward, and you begin to push. The great stone resists, scraping against its base, and then with a deep, mournful groan it begins to turn. And so you walk. Your world becomes a circle of gray, dusty floor. Left foot, right foot, the strain in your legs, the immense weight on your shoulders. The constant groaning protest of the turning stone. There is no destination, no sense of progress. Are you facing the door, the wall? You have no idea. The blinders and the circular path erase all direction, all sense of place. You are simply a component, the living engine of this machine, and your only purpose is to complete one circle, and then another, and another. Your thoughts, trapped inside your skull just as your body is trapped in this room, begin to follow the same pattern. a dizzying, repetitive loop of exhaustion and despair. The ghee, flour dust, is a relentless torment. It is in the air, on the floor, on the walls. It is a fine white film on your skin, mixing with your sweat to form a sticky, cloying paste. You try to wipe it from your eyes, but your hands are coated in it. Every breath is a conscious effort, a fight to pull oxygen from the heavy, choking air. You cough, a deep, dry hack that does no good, as your next breath is just another lungful of the fine white powder that is slowly, inexorably filling you up. The constant grinding groan of the millstone is the only music. It is the sound of grain being pulverized, of your own energy being consumed, of your life being ground down into dust. At the end of the shift, when you are finally unyoked and allowed to collapse, you see the fruits of your labor. A mountain of fine, white flour. You know it will become bread for the powerful, for the comfortable, for the people who will never know the circular, suffocating hell that was required to create their daily meal. You have been moved again, not to another place of brutal, overt labor, but to a world of quiet, ordered luxury. You now serve in a grand urban villa. In the central atrium, sunlight streams down from an opening in the roof, illuminating a gentle fountain that trickles into a marble basin. The sound of the water is the only sound, a peaceful, constant whisper that fills the opulent space. The floors are intricate mosaics of colored stone, telling stories of gods and heroes you do not know. The air smells clean, infused with the scent of beeswax used to polish the fine wooden furniture, and the faint, sweet perfume of expensive oils burning in bronze lamps. It is a world of impossible beauty and serene calm, a perfect, polished facade. And you are the unseen ghost whose endless, silent toil makes it all possible. Here, your misery is not from the bite of a whip or the danger of falling rock, but from the crushing weight of your own invisibility. The beauty you see is a direct result of a hidden, backbreaking reality. The gleaming floors are not effortlessly clean. They gleam because you spend hours on your hands and knees with a rough cloth, your back aching, scrubbing away every speck of dust and dirt until the marble shines like a dark mirror. The pleasant warmth that permeates the rooms does not appear from nowhere. It exists because you spend your mornings in the smoky basement, stoking the fires of the hippocaust, your arms aching from hauling heavy baskets of wood. The fountain's gentle trickle is not magic. It is the result of your repeated journeys to the well, the weight of the water buckets stretching your arms and digging painful grooves into your shoulders. All this work must be done in silence, in the early hours before the family wakes, or in the hidden corridors and back passages, away from the eyes of your masters. To be successful in your role is to erase yourself completely. You learn to walk silently along the edges of the silent corridors, to press yourself into an alcove when a member of the family approaches. They walk past, their eyes looking straight through you, their conversation flowing without a pause, as if you are not there at all. You are not a person to them. You are a function, a tool, a piece of the house's architecture that quietly writes itself. This constant denial of your existence is a unique and subtle form of cruelty. It chips away at your sense of self, leaving you to wonder if the unseen ghost they treat you as is all you have become. At the end of the long day, after the last lamp has been lit and the last brazier filled, you retreat to your small, shared, sleeping cell in the slave quarters. An exhaustion settles over you that is deeper than muscle. It's a weariness of the soul, a fatigue born from spending every waking moment being vigilant, silent, and small. It is a tiredness that no one will ever see or acknowledge, for to do so would be to admit that the effortless ease of their life is an illusion, built upon the foundation of your silent, unending exhaustion. Just before you are done for the night, you are on your hands and knees, giving a final polish to a section of the main hall floor. The marble is dark, almost black, and polished to a perfect sheen. For a moment you pause and you see a face looking back at you. It is your own, but distorted and unfamiliar in the gleaming surface. You see a stranger's face, smudged with soot from the fires, with hair clinging to a sweat-smeared brow. You see eyes that are hollow, not from the dust of the quarry, but from a profound and invisible weariness. It is the face of the ghost who haunts this beautiful house, a face that is reflected in its splendor, but is never truly seen. And this quiet, constant work, this life in the shadows, will be the focus of our continued journey. After a moment of rest, you are no longer the ghost in the corridors. You have been brought into the light. But the light is more dangerous than the shadows. Your new role is to serve in the triclinium, the lavish dining room where your master and mistress entertain their powerful friends. The room itself is a treasure chest. Couches are draped in rich dyed fabrics. The walls are covered in vibrant frescoes of myths and legends. And the air is thick with the expensive scents of roasted meats, spiced wine, and the perfumes of the wealthy guests. But to you, this opulence is a minefield. The delicate wine goblets are a disaster waiting to happen. The polished silver platters are impossibly heavy. The silent, deep-piled rugs are a stage for your every move, and a single stumble could bring the entire performance of this effortless dinner party crashing down. Your survival here depends on a new kind of labor, the labor of hypervigilance. You become a scholar of moods, an expert in the unspoken language of power. You learn that the slight tightening of your master's jaw means a guest has displeased him. You learn to recognize the subtle, impatient tapping of your mistress's finger. On the table, a silent command to clear the plates more quickly. You learn to read the room not by what is said, but by the spaces between the words, by the glances held a second too long, by the sudden chill that can descend upon the laughter. Your mind is a constant checklist. Is the master's cup full? Does the senator's wife need more bread? Are my hands steady? Am I moving silently enough? You exist in a state of a held breath, your entire being focused on anticipating needs before they are voiced, on solving problems before they are noticed. Tonight, the room is full. You move along the edge of the couches, your bare feet making no sound on the mosaic floor. The sound of silk whispers past as a guest adjusts their position. You reach to pour more wine into a goblet, and you can feel their eyes on your hands, judging your steadiness. A tight knot of fear is a permanent resident in your stomach. Your goal is not to be praised. Your goal is to be forgotten, to be so efficient and so invisible that you blend with the opulent scenery. You clear a dish, and your fingers brush against a guest's arm. You flinch internally, terrified, but they do not notice. They are laughing, their minds on politics and gossip, their world entirely separate from the tense, high-stakes universe you inhabit just inches away. Each refilled cup, each empty plate whisked away, is a small, silent victory. Not a step toward reward, but simply another moment that disaster has been successfully averted. When the last guest has finally departed and the masters have retired, you are dismissed. The moment you step from the lamplit dining room into the dark, quiet service corridor, the relief is a physical thing. You lean against the cold stone wall and finally allow yourself to exhale, the breath escaping your lungs. In a long, shaky sigh, the knot of fear in your stomach loosens, though it never fully dissolves. This temporary peace is the only payment you will ever receive. But as you retreat to your sleeping pallet, the tension lingers. The fear of what would have happened if you had dropped that cup, if your hands had trembled, follows you into the darkness. That fear is realized on an otherwise unremarkable afternoon. The villa is quiet, cloaked in the sleepy heat of midday. You are in the atrium, carefully cleaning the leaves of a potted plant, the work methodical and calm. Then the quiet is shattered. A voice, the master's voice, is raised from his study. It is not merely loud, it is a blade of pure rage cutting through the tranquility of the house. Instantly, a new kind of silence descends. Every slave, wherever they are, freezes. A cook stills her chopping knife. A cleaner halts her broom. Everyone is listening, their bodies rigid with a familiar dread. From the end of the long portico, you can see into the study. The master stands over his personal scribe, a young man named Lucius. A scroll is unfurled on the table between them. The accusation is unclear, a miscopied word, a sum incorrectly tallied. But the reason is ultimately irrelevant. The master's fury has found a target. You watch as Lucius, pale and trembling, tries to speak, but his words are swallowed by the tirade. The master makes a sharp, curt gesture to the household overseer, who has appeared as if from nowhere. The judgment is passed. The procedure will now begin. Lucius is taken by the arm and led to the central courtyard. You do not watch directly, you cannot bear to, but you cannot escape it. You turn your back and focus with burning intensity on the waxy leaf in your hand, polishing it over and over. You hear the overseer's cold, procedural commands. You hear the rough sound of a tunic being pulled and ripped. Then comes the sound that turns your blood to ice, the dull, heavy sound of a blow landing on flesh, followed by a choked, half-swallowed cry. Another, and another. There is a terrible rhythm to it, a businesslike efficiency that is more chilling than any screaming rage. This is not a loss of control. This is control in its purest, most brutal form. Around you, the other slaves are a gallery of statues. Eyes are downcast. Faces are blank masks. No one speaks. No one looks at anyone else. But a sick, cold understanding flows between you all. It is the shared, unspoken terror. The cold knot of dread is back, tighter than ever, because you all know this truth. It could have been any of you, for any reason, or for no reason at all. And the most profound chain of your servitude is this: the utter, absolute impossibility of speaking, of intervening, of doing anything but continuing to polish a single, meaningless leaf as if your life depends on it. Because in this house it does. The following part of our story deals with experiences of a deeply painful and sensitive nature. We will approach this aspect of history with the care and respect it deserves, focusing not on acts of violence, but on the quiet, human experience of their aftermath. The night is a hollow reed, and the silence it holds is immense. You are back in your sleeping space, a small straw pallet in a cramped, dark room. But sleep will not come. There is a deep, insistent need to wash, an instinct that goes far beyond simple cleanliness. You pour cold water from a clay jug into a basin, and you begin to wash your face, your arms, your skin. The water is cold, and the shock of it is real, but it cannot reach the feeling you are trying to scrub away. It is a feeling that is soaked deeper than skin, a stain on the inside of you, a feeling of being used, an object taken down from a shelf and then put back, no longer entirely your own. You feel a profound and strange disconnection from your own body. You look down at your hands in the sliver of moonlight from a high window, and they do not seem to belong to you. They are simply the hands of the slave named Felix, the property of your master. The body you inhabit feels like a borrowed room, a space where you are forced to live but which is not truly yours, its doors and windows controlled by another. There has been a theft of self, a hollowing out, leaving a cold, empty space where something essential used to be. You are a vessel, and you feel the echoing emptiness of what has been taken. This is the deepest wound of your servitude, a violation, more absolute than any whip or chain. And in this silence, a single tear escapes and traces a cold path down your cheek. There is no sound to your weeping. It is a grief too private, too dangerous to make a noise. Who would you tell? What words would you use? The name of the one who hurt you is a name you cannot speak in accusation. It is the name of power, the name of your owner. And the deepest root of this horror is the knowledge that you had no right to say no. The word itself does not belong to you. It is a privilege you have never been afforded. Your sorrow, your violation, your silent tears in the dark, they do not matter. In the eyes of the world, nothing has happened at all. This profound loneliness, this feeling of being an object makes any genuine human connection both a desperate necessity and a terrifying risk. Yet, in the shared darkness of the slave quarters, against all odds you have found one. You have formed a bond with another soul, a partnership of whispered words and shared glances. In the stolen moments after the household is asleep, a hand finds yours in the dark. The warmth of their body beside you on the straw pallet is the only real warmth in your life. Perhaps there is even a child, a small sleeping form whose soft breathing is the most beautiful music you have ever heard. This is your family, your contubernum. It is the one thing that makes this life bearable. But this love, this fragile joy, is built on a foundation of absolute terror. You know that your union is not a connubium, a marriage recognized by law. It is an arrangement, a convenience, permitted, only as long as it suits your master. This precious, life-sustaining bond is as strong and as fragile as a spider's thread. A lost investment, a sudden debt, a simple change of heart, and your world could be ripped apart in an instant. This, gnawing fear is a constant companion, a bitter undercurrent to every tender touch and loving word. The fear becomes a horrifying reality one afternoon. The master has sold several slaves to a visiting trader. You are all lined up in the courtyard for inspection. You watch as a family you know, a man, a woman, and their young daughter, are brought before the trader. He is interested in and who is a skilled blacksmith. He inspects his arms, his teeth, but he shakes his head at the woman and child. They are not part of the price. The woman begins to plead, her voice low and desperate. The man stands silent, his face a mask of helpless fury. And then you hear it. The sound of a child's cry as she is pulled away from her father's hand. The new owner leads the man away. The mother is left clutching her weeping daughter, her family destroyed in a simple, callous business transaction. That night, back in the safety of the dark, you hold your own family close. You feel the warmth of your partner, the small, trusting weight of your child sleeping against your chest. And your heart is torn in two. It is filled with a love so fierce it feels like it could light up the sunless mines. And at the same time, it is seized by a cold, abject terror. You are clinging to your entire world, knowing, with a gut-wrenching certainty, that you have no right to it at all. This person, this child, this love, in the eyes of the law that governs your life, none of it is truly yours. Your family, this fragile source of light, exists only in the shadows of the household. In the eyes of the world, in the eyes of the law, it is not real. You learn the depth of this truth one hot afternoon, on an errand for your master in the city forum. A commotion erupts nearby. A merchant accuses a citizen of stealing a purse. The citizen, well-dressed and indignant, denies it vehemently. You were standing nearby. You saw the whole thing. You saw the citizen's hand, quick as a snake, dip into the merchant's bag. The image is as clear as the blue sky above you. The city watch arrives, pushing through the crowd. They begin asking for witnesses. Several people step forward, some supporting the merchant, some the citizen. They begin to argue, and you stand perfectly still. You do not move. You do not speak. You know that the truth you hold in your mind is worthless. It is a ghost. A slave's testimony has no legal standing, no weight in the scales of Roman justice. It is only considered valid if it is extracted under torture, as the law assumes a thing cannot tell the truth, unless compelled by a pain greater than its loyalty or fear. Your voice would leave no echo in that courthouse. You are a shadow in the eyes of the law. As you turn and walk away, the shouts of the argument fading behind you, the full meaning of your status settles upon you like a shroud. You are not a persona, a person. In the cold, precise language of the law that governs your entire world, you are a thing. You are property, in the same legal category as the building you live in or the livestock in the fields. What is a person without a voice? What is a human when defined as an object? You are a breathing tool, a walking container of labor, and the invisible walls of this legal definition are higher and more impassable than any physical barrier. This understanding makes you think of the few small, secret things you consider your own. A smooth gray stone you have carried since you were taken from your home. A tiny, carved bird, a secret gift from your lost partner. You keep them hidden, these tiny anchors to a self you are not supposed to have. But you now understand the profound and dangerous illusion of that ownership. They are not yours. Nothing is yours. Not the tunic on your back, not the child you hold in the night. The law is a wall that separates you from everything, even from yourself. To love, to own, to remember. These are all crimes of a thing pretending to be a person. But what happens when that thing becomes valuable? What happens when your mind, not just your body, is the asset your master owns? Your life shifts. Again. You are now an educated slave, a scribe. You are spared the backbreaking labor of the fields and the quarry. Your hands are not calloused from pickaxes, but stained with ink. You work in the master's quiet study, a sanctuary of scrolls and order. The leash around your neck is no longer made of rope, but of gold. And you soon learn that a gilded leash can be the tightest of all. Your task is to take dictation. You sit with a wax tablet on your lap, a sharp stylus in your hand, and the only sounds are the master's pacing footsteps and the soft, rhythmic scratch of your writing. Much of the work is mundane, business accounts, letters to farm managers. But one day the tone changes. The master's voice drops, and he begins to dictate a letter to an influential senator. The words are carefully chosen, veiled in courtesy, but their meaning is unmistakable. It is a letter of conspiracy, of intrigue, of secrets that could undo powerful men. As the words flow from his mouth, through your mind, and onto the wax, you feel a cold dread creep into your heart. The scratch of your stylus sounds like it is carving a secret that could get you killed. You have become a walking secret. The knowledge you now hold is a poison for which there is no antidote. It is a constant, humming tension beneath the surface of your quiet, scholarly life. You are a library of dangerous knowledge, a chest of secrets your master trusts you to keep locked. But it is the trust one places in an object, not the trust one gives to a person. You are valuable because of what you know, and you are in mortal danger for the very same reason. The fear you live with now is not of a random, angry blow. It is the fear of a calculated, quiet decision. Should your master's political fortunes turn, should he ever doubt your loyalty for a single second, your knowledge makes you a threat that must be neutralized. Your silence would be guaranteed, either through torture to extract what you know, or through a quick, quiet death to ensure it is never spoken. Your privileged position is the most precarious of all, your life hanging by the slender thread of your master's success and his continued belief in your utility. The precariousness of your position, the fact that you are a thing that knows secrets, is a constant quiet hum of dread beneath the surface of your days. But there are more fundamental fears. Fears that have nothing to do with the master's plots and everything to do with the simple, brutal reality of your own body. For what happens when the tool itself begins to break? It begins as a small thing, a minor betrayal, a persistent chill that settles deep in your bones, a weariness that sleep does not cure, or maybe it's a deep, ragged cut on your arm from a splintered piece of wood in the quarry, a wound that throbs with a life of its own. At first, it is just pain, a familiar companion. But then, a fever begins its slow climb, a fire behind, the eyes that makes the world waver and swim. The cut on your arm grows hot to the touch, the skin around it turning an angry red. This is no longer just pain. This is a threat. This is the beginning of the cold, creeping fear of becoming useless. Your new primary labor becomes the act of concealment. You push through your daily tasks, your body a screaming chorus of protest. Every lift of a water bucket sends a jolt of fire through your feverish limbs. You try to hide the shiver that runs through you, praying the overseer doesn't notice. The unnatural flush on your cheeks or the sheen of sweat on your skin. You carry your secret pain like a forbidden object, terrified of it being discovered. To admit sickness is to admit weakness. To admit weakness is to confess that you are a damaged tool. And you have seen what happens to damaged tools. Just last week, an older man, his lungs filled with the dust from the mill, finally collapsed. His body racked with a cough that left him breathless on the ground. The overseer did not call for a physician. He did not show any concern. He simply stared down at the man with an expression of pure annoyance, the cold calculus of value running behind his eyes. The man was no longer a productive asset. He was a debit. He was dragged to the edge of the work area and left there. A human bundle of rags, his fate now his own. To be sick, you realize, is to be invisible in a new and terrifying way. It is to be discarded. And so, the fear grows with your fever. Every wave of dizziness, every throb of the infection in your arm, is a reminder that your only worth is contained within this fragile vessel of flesh and bone. Your body is not yours to rest, not yours to heal. It is an asset belonging to your master, and it is beginning to fail. You feel like a fraying rope, straining under a heavy load, knowing that at any moment you could snap. The fear of the illness itself is real, but it is dwarfed by the much larger, more terrifying fear of what the illness represents. The fear of the scrap heap. The fear of being left by the side of a field, of being abandoned in a dark room, of being thrown away because you are no longer of any use. In a world that sees you only as a body that can perform work, the failure of that body is a death sentence, long before the fever takes its final hold. This utter helplessness in the face of your own biology is a foundational truth of your existence, a truth that echoes in every corner of your life. The fear of a sudden sickness is a constant, sharp-edged companion. But there is another fear, a slower and more insidious dread that grows with each passing season. It is the specter of old age. In the world of your master, to grow old is not to earn rest or respect. It is to slowly, inexorably, lose your value. It is the terror of a body's long betrayal in a system that only values the body's strength. You see this fear made real in the form of an old slave who works in the gardens. You see the way he struggles to lift a water jug that a younger man would carry with ease. You see the contempt in the overseer's eyes when the old man moves too slowly, his joints stiff and his back bent. The younger slaves look away, not out of cruelty, but because they cannot bear to look at him for too long. He is the ghost of their future selves, a living embodiment of where this path inevitably leads. He is a constant, painful reminder that their own utility has an expiration date. As you watch him, you remember a time when he was strong. You have heard the stories from others who have been here for decades. This man, with his brittle bones and shuffling gait, was once the strongest. Worker on the estate, capable of toiling from sunup to sundown without complaint. His strength was his currency, and he spent it all in his master's service. Now his account is empty, and he is treated like a debtor. This slow fading, you realize, is not a personal failure. It is the natural conclusion of a life spent as a tool, now worn down and beginning to rust. And then one morning you feel it yourself. A new and unfamiliar ache settles deep in your bones. A protest from your knees as you stand. A stiffness in your back that wasn't there last season. It's not the sharp pain of an injury, but the dull, persistent whisper of your own body beginning its long, slow decline. The image of the old man flashes in your mind, and a new kind of dread takes root in your soul. It is the existential terror of becoming useless. You have lived your life defined by what you can do. Lift, carry, dig, endure. What will you be when you can no longer do those things? There is no reward for a lifetime of service here. There is only the fear of being set aside, of being deemed a waste of food and space, a living relic discarded while your heart still beats. This fear of being discarded is tied directly to the meager provisions you receive, the bare subsistence that is calculated not for your comfort, but for your continued labor. At the end of another exhausting day, the horn sounds, and you join the shuffling, silent line for your evening meal. It is the same as yesterday and the day before that. A lump of coarse grain bread, so dense it feels like a stone in your hand, a few wrinkled, salt-cured olives, and a cup of sour wine heavily diluted with water, a drink that does more to parch your throat than to quench it. You eat standing, forcing down the gritty, tasteless fuel, your body craving a nourishment this meal will never provide. With the meal concluded, you walk with the others toward the barracks, the ergastulum. It is not a home you return to, but a human warehouse. As you step through the single heavy door, the air hits you like a physical wall. It is thick and warm, heavy with the smell of sweat and damp earth, and the breathing of 100 exhausted bodies. The cavernous room is dark, lit only by a few smoking torches that cast long, dancing shadows on the stone walls. There are no rooms, no partitions, no locks on the door. There is no privacy. You navigate through the sea of sleeping bodies, finding your small patch of floor, your thin pallet of straw. This is your only sanctuary, and it is a sanctuary you must share with everyone. You cannot have a private thought, a quiet moment of grief, a whispered conversation without being overheard. The very concept of being alone is a luxury as unattainable as freedom itself. You lie down on the hard floor, the packed earth beneath the straw feeling cold and unforgiving. You close your eyes, but the sounds of the barracks surround you. A man groaning in his sleep, another coughing a deep, rattling cough. The collective rhythm of dozens of souls breathing in the dark. This is the grim reality of your rest. Not a peaceful reprieve, but a brief shared pause in a collective state of misery, waiting for the horn to sound again in the pre-dawn chill. You exist in a sea of sleeping bodies, yet you have never felt more alone. The fear of your own body failing, of being discarded like a broken tool, is a solitary burden. But a new fear now arrives, one that is not solitary at all. It is a fear of the very people who share your misery, a fear born from the cold, brilliant cruelty of Roman law. A tense quiet has fallen over the villa. The overseers are jumpy, the masters speak in low, grim voices. The usual rhythm of the household is broken. Then the news arrives not in a proclamation but in a dangerous whisper, a rumor passed from the kitchen to the gardens, from the stables to the laundry. The master of the villa down the road, a man known for his violent temper, was found murdered in his bed. The whisper grows colder as it relays the consequences. The law was invoked. The ancient, terrifying law that states if a slave kills their master, every slave in that household must be executed. The whisper tells of a methodical horror, of men, women, and children, the innocent and the guilty alike, being led to their deaths. It was not an act of rage, it was the law. This knowledge poisons the air you breathe. You look at the faces around you, the same faces you have shared rations and sleeping quarters with for years, and you see them anew. That man, his eyes simmering with a silent resentment after a punishment, is he a companion in suffering, or a potential source of your own doom? That young woman, desperate and heartbroken after her child was sold away, is her grief a familiar pain, or is it a catalyst for an act that will consume you all? Every face is a potential threat. Every whispered complaint, every flash of anger is a possible death sentence for everyone. You are all now caught in a web of shared fear, but it is a web that pushes you apart, atomizing your community into 100 terrified individuals. How can you trust anyone? How can you form a bond of solidarity when the price of one person's desperate anger is your own life? The law, in its long shadow, has done something brilliant and diabolical. It has made you your own jailers. It has forced you to police and fear each other. And in this perfect systemic helplessness, you are utterly and completely alone, isolated not just from the world of the free, but from the very people who share your chains. The weight of this powerlessness is so immense, so absolute, that even the smallest glimmer of hope feels like a sunrise. And one day, a glimmer appears. Your master, pleased with your work as a scribe, grants you the right to a peculium. He places a small, heavy coin in your palm. As your fingers close around it, the cold metal feels like a fragile seed of hope. A peculium, a small fund, legally the master's property, but entrusted to you to manage. You are allowed to keep tips, to sell small things you create in your rare moments of rest. The purpose is unspoken but universally understood. With enough coins, you might one day be able to buy your own freedom. The dream, once an impossible fantasy, now feels like a distant shoreline that you might actually be able to reach. This, hope is a powerful fuel. You work with a new diligence, your actions driven not just by fear but by purpose. Every extra task completed, every word of praise from the master, might lead to another small coin to add to your secret stash. At night, you don't just fall into an exhausted sleep. You lie awake and dream. You dream of the day you can approach your master not as a slave, but as a buyer. You dream of purchasing the freedom of the one you love. This dream is a private, precious world you build for yourself, coin by coin. But the world has a way of shattering such fragile things. You learn this by watching another slave, an old gardener who has been tending his peculium for 20 years. He is a quiet, stooped man, and his savings are his life's work. One day, the master decides he wishes to purchase a new, expensive statue for the garden. He summons the old gardener, and with no more ceremony than asking for a tool, he demands the man's entire savings. The gardener protests, his voice cracking with a lifetime of hoarded hope. He is beaten for his insolence, and his peculium is confiscated. It was never his. It was always just a privilege, a fund the master allowed him to hold. In that moment, you see the truth. The hope you have been nurturing is a lie. The peculium is not a path to freedom. It is a leash made of gold. It is a tool of control, more effective than any whip, designed to make you work harder, to make you compliant, to make you complicit in your own servitude. The distant shoreline was a mirage. You return to your sleeping pallet and feel the small, heavy weight of your hidden coins. They no longer feel like hope. They feel like a mockery, and the beautiful dream you had built for yourself dissolves, leaving only the taste of bitter ashes in your mouth. The hope for freedom, offered by the master's system, has turned to ash in your mouth. The law is a wall, your body is a tool, and your family is a bond that can be broken on a whim. Faced with this absolute systemic powerlessness, it would be easy for the human spirit to simply break, to dissolve into a state of pure, numb despair. And for many, on many days it does. But the spirit, even when caged, is not a passive thing. Open rebellion is suicide. A raised fist or a shouted word of defiance leads only to the whip or the cross. And so resistance must go underground. It must become a quiet, intelligent, and invisible war, fought not with weapons but with the small, stubborn spark of your own will. It begins with a simple, pointless order. The overseer, his mood soured by some unknown offense, decides to make an example of your powerlessness. He tells you to move a large pile of decorative stones from one side of the sun-drenched courtyard to the other. There is no reason for this task. The stones are fine where they are. It is an exercise in dominance, a reminder that your time and your energy belong to him. You meet his gaze with a carefully blank expression, a mask of dull obedience that you have perfected over the years. You nod as if his order is the most reasonable thing in the world, and turn to begin the work. You do not refuse. You do not complain. You simply work. But the way you work becomes your weapon. You walk to the Uai, pile and take a long, strategic pause before bending to lift the first stone, as if carefully considering the best approach to such a monumental task. Your pace is deliberate, just a fraction slower than what the overseer might expect, but not so slow as to be an open act of insubordination. You lift a stone that is slightly too heavy, and you theatrically stumble, needing to drop it and select a smaller one, wasting precious seconds. You misunderstand the exact spot he wants the new pile, forcing him to walk over and irritably point it out again. Each movement is calculated to be inefficient, to be a grain of sand in the machine of his authority. It is a silent rebellion, a masterpiece of passive resistance painted on a canvas of feigned incompetence. The overseer watches you, his arms crossed, a thundercloud of frustration gathering on his brow. He knows on some level what you are doing. He can feel your defiance in the air, in the subtle slowness of your movements. But he cannot prove it. You have not disobeyed him. Your face remains a placid mask of a simple slave performing a simple task. To punish you would be to admit that you have gotten under his skin, that you, a thing, a tool, have managed to frustrate him, a man with absolute power. And so, with a muttered curse, he turns and walks away, leaving you to your pointless task. He has been defeated, and he knows it. As his footsteps recede, you allow yourself the smallest of victories. It is not a smile that anyone could see. It is an internal feeling, a quiet flicker of satisfaction that warms you from the inside out. In this tiny, invisible battle, you have won. You have not broken your chains. You have not gained your freedom. But you have asserted a fundamental truth known only to you. They own your body, but they do not own your mind. They can command your labor, but they cannot command the full willing cooperation of your spirit. This small act of saying no, in a way they cannot punish, is a reclamation of some tiny, essential part of yourself. As you pick up another stone, you happen to catch the eye of another slave, watching from a doorway. There is no smile, no gesture. There is only a brief, almost imperceptible nod of shared understanding. And in that moment, your secret, individual rebellion becomes something more, the beginning of a connection. That small, secret victory over the overseer, that shared, silent nod of understanding, is a seed. And in the barren soil of your servitude, seeds like this are desperate to grow. You begin to realize you are not the only one fighting this quiet, invisible war. There is a silent community all around you, its language unspoken but deeply understood. You are in the fields, working side by side with dozens of others under the relentless sun. The overseer, on his horse, shouts a new command. It is a foolish order, one that will make the work harder, not easier. No one protests. No one speaks. But as you all move to obey, a collective sigh so quiet it is barely more than a shared exhale of breath ripples through the line. A woman nearby catches your eye for just a moment, a flicker of shared exasperation in her gaze before it goes carefully blank again. This is the language of glances, a complex vocabulary of solidarity built from necessity. You learn to read, the slight tensing of a shoulder, the subtle tightening of a jaw, the fractional pause before an order is obeyed. In these fleeting moments, you are speaking to each other, affirming a shared reality that the masters know nothing about. You are not alone. The real community, however, is forged in the darkness. In the crowded, stifling air of the barracks, with the overseers gone and the masters asleep in their beds, the whispers can begin. You find others who came from your homeland, their accents a comforting echo of a life you thought was lost forever. Huddled close on your straw pallets, the darkness providing a thin blanket of security, you speak in your forbidden native tongue. You tell a story your father told you, a myth about the river that ran near your village. As the words leave your mouth, you feel a piece of your old self returning. And then, another person whispers back with a story of their own, of the same river, of the same mountains. It is a miracle. In that moment, you are not just a collection of slaves. You are a people. You are sharing a history, a culture, a part of your soul that no chains can bind. Sometimes, someone will hum a tune, the ghost of a song from a forgotten festival, and a few others will quietly join in, the melody a fragile thread of connection woven through the dark. This is how you survive, not just with bread and water, but with this shared warmth in the cold, this secret remembrance of who you were, and who, in some small, vital way, you still are. These threads of community, of shared humanity, often weave themselves into something stronger, more intimate, and infinitely more dangerous. You find a single person in the crowd, your contubernium, your partner. In a world designed to crush all tenderness, you choose to love. This love is not declared in public or sanctioned by law. It is a secret built from 1,000 tiny, stolen moments. It is a stolen kiss in the deep shadows of the stables. It is the way you save the ripest fig from your meager ration for them. It is the silent question in their eyes when you return from a difficult task, asking if you are all right. It is a secret gift, a wildflower picked from the edge of the field, left on their sleeping pallet as a silent declaration. With these small, defiant acts, you build a fragile fortress of two against the world, and then the ultimate act of defiant love occurs. A child is born. In the moment you first hold your baby, your heart is overwhelmed with a fierce, protective love that you never knew you were capable of feeling. But that perfect joy is immediately married to an equally profound terror. You have brought a new life, a new soul into this world of chains. You have created another piece of property for your master. This child is both a testament to your humanity and a constant, aching reminder of your utter powerlessness. Your resistance takes on a new and vital purpose. You must give this child an identity beyond that of a slave. In the quiet of the night, you whisper the stories of your people. In their ear, you sing them a lullaby in a forbidden tongue, the ancient melody a direct link to a heritage the child will never see. You teach them your true name, the name of your ancestors, a secret they must hold in their heart like a precious jewel. This is how you fight back now. You cannot give your child freedom, but you can give them a soul that is their own. And you come to understand that this is the greatest resistance of all. To love, to create family, to show tenderness in a place of unrelenting brutality. This is not weakness, it is your victory. It is the one thing they can never take from you. To love and build a family is the ultimate act of defiance, a testament to a spirit that refuses to be defined by its chains. But there are other ways to find solace, other forms of quiet resistance against the crushing weight of this world. There are hopes that can only be nurtured in the deepest darkness, in the most secret of places. The official gods of the villa, Jupiter, Juno, Mars, are the gods of your master. Their temples are built with your labor, their feasts are prepared with your hands, but their promises do not feel like they are for you. And so, you seek comfort elsewhere. An older woman from the kitchens, her eyes holding a deep and ancient wisdom, gives you a silent, knowing look one evening. She gestures with a slight nod of her head toward a dilapidated cellar at the far edge of the estate, a place no one has used for years. It is an invitation. Later that night, under the sliver of a crescent moon, you slip out of the barracks and make your way to the cellar. The door groans as you open it, and you descend into the cool, earthy darkness. There, a small group is gathered. The air is thick with the unfamiliar sacred smell of incense. The only light comes from the flicker of a single hidden lamp, which makes the shadows on the stone walls dance like spirits. You have heard whispers of these secret gatherings, these mystery cults that offer a different kind of promise. Here they worship Isis, the Egyptian mother who gathered the broken pieces of her murdered husband and made him whole again. Or perhaps it is Mithras, the soldier's god, who understood suffering. Or maybe it is the followers of the Christ, a strange sect that speaks of a carpenter god who promised that the meek would inherit the earth. The exact name of the god does not matter as much as the feeling in this room. A low chanting begins, a hypnotic, rhythmic prayer that weaves together words from your own forgotten tongue and the language of the masters. A small piece of bread is broken and shared. A cup of wine is passed from hand to hand. And in this simple, sacred ritual, you feel a profound sense of release. In this room, you are not a tool. You are not property. You are a soul, worthy and seen in the eyes of a God who understands your suffering. The ceremony offers a promise whispered from the gods, that this life is not the only one, and that a divine, cosmic justice awaits. The bonds you forge here, in the flickering lamplight, feel unbreakable. You are not just a collection of slaves. You are a congregation, a community of faith, awaiting a final judgment where the scales will at last be balanced. You walk back to the barracks with a new kind of hope warming your spirit, a hope beyond this life. But what about hope in this life? One day, a different kind of whisper makes its way through the villa, a rumor not of terror, but of a quiet miracle. A slave on the neighboring estate, a man who served his master faithfully for 30 years, was granted manumission in his master's will. He walked out of the gates not as property, but as a free man. The story is so shocking, so rare, that it feels like a myth, but it plants a fragile, shimmering hope in your heart. It is possible. That night you lie on your pallet, but you do not sleep. For the first time, you allow yourself to truly dream. You close your eyes and imagine the moment. A legal document, a magistrate's pronouncement, the ceremonial touch of a staff on your shoulder. And then the first step outside the gates, not on an errand, but on a journey of your own choosing. What would the air even taste like? It would be a phantom taste of freedom, sharp and clean in your lungs. You imagine walking without fear, without looking over your shoulder. You imagine searching for your lost family, following a half-remembered name of a town, a whisper of a rumor. You see yourself speaking your true name, not in a secret whisper, but aloud, to an official, and having it written down, having it be real. The daydream is a path out of the darkness, a destination you can barely imagine. A small farm, a simple craft, a life where your body and your time are your own. The harsh sound of the overseer's horn before dawn shatters the fantasy. Your eyes open to the familiar gloom of the barracks, the reality of your servitude crashing down on you like a physical weight. The dream is gone, and yet, not entirely. As you rise to face the long day of toil, something has shifted inside you. The dream remains, a small, secret ember that you can tend to in the quietest moments of your mind. It is a mental escape, a private world where you are free. It is a reason to endure. It is a fragile, precious, and powerful hope that even in this world of chains, a different life is not impossible. The dream of freedom, once a fragile, secret ember, has been your constant companion through the long, weary years. It was a private hope that made the days bearable, a fantasy of a life you might one day lead. But decades have passed. Your body is older now, marked by a lifetime of labor. Your master, too, has aged. He is a frail, withered man, confined to his bed, his own life slowly fading. One day, you are summoned to his room. You stand by the door, your hands clasped behind your back in a posture of servitude so deeply ingrained it is second nature. The air in the room is heavy and still, thick with the cloying scent of sickness, and fragrant oils meant to mask it. The master's family is gathered, their faces somber. A notary sits by the bed, a wax tablet on his lap, his stylus poised. You do not know why you are here. A lifetime of experience has taught you that being noticed is rarely a good thing, and your heart beats with a familiar, cautious rhythm of fear. The master's voice is a dry, rattling whisper, a pale shadow of the booming commands you once knew. He dictates his last wishes to the notary, his words slow and labored. He bequeaths properties, sums of money, personal items, and then he speaks your name. You flinch, your muscles tensing for a final, unexpected command. But the words that follow are not a command. They are an earthquake. They are words that remake the world. And to my faithful slave, Felix, he rasps, I grant him his freedom. The notary's stylus makes a soft, scratching sound on the wax, sealing the impossible words into reality. In the deafening silence that follows, you feel nothing. Not the explosion of joy you always imagined in your dreams. Not the urge to weep with relief. Instead, a profound and hollow shock washes over you, so vast and empty that it feels like the world has simply stopped. The words echo in your mind, but they are in a language you no longer understand. Free. The concept is too large, too alien to fit inside the architecture of a mind built by decades of servitude. It feels like a trick, a final cruel joke. You wait for the punchline, for the laughter, but none comes. Slowly, something does begin to shift inside you. It is a strange, unfamiliar sensation, an invisible weight you have carried on your shoulders, your entire life. A weight you were so accustomed to you had forgotten it was even there, begins to lift. The absence of it is dizzying, terrifying. You feel unmoored, a stranger in your own skin, suddenly light enough to float away into the silent, waiting air. The freedom you dreamed of was a simple, beautiful shoreline. The freedom that is now, your reality feels like being pushed from a cliff into a vast, unknown ocean. Later, you are not sure how much later, you are standing at the main entrance to the villa. A small pouch of coins has been pressed into your hand. A soft conical cap, the pileus of a freedman, is placed on your head. You stand on the threshold, a place you have crossed 10,000 times, but it has never looked like this. You look back into the atrium and see the faces of your fellow slaves, your friends, your family. You see their joy for you, warring with their own deep sorrow. You see hope and envy and fear all mixed in their gazes. Their collective stare is a new kind of weight. Then, you turn your back on the only life you have ever known, and you take a step. The stone of the public street feels strange beneath your worn sandals, uneven and unpredictable. The sounds of the city, the clatter of carts, the shouting of merchants, are suddenly loud and chaotic. You are a free man standing alone on a street in Rome with no master, no overseer, and no idea what to do next. Your dream has come true, and you have never felt so completely and utterly lost. The city is a bewildering maze of sound and motion. You find a small, dark room to rent in a crowded tenement building, the rent taking most of the few coins your master gave you. You find work at the docks, hauling cargo, your body falling back into the familiar rhythms of hard labor. But it is different now. The choice to work is yours. The coins you earn are yours. The exhaustion you feel at the end of the day is your own. For a few weeks you begin to feel the fragile shoots of a new life taking root. You are a libertus, a freedman. You start to believe that you have truly left the past behind. Then a message arrives. It is a summons delivered by a slave from the villa you once called your prison. Your former master's son, your new patron, requires your services, and you feel a cold, familiar dread wash over you. The chains you realize were not entirely broken. They have just been made longer and less visible. As a freed slave, you still owe your patron obsequium, respect and loyalty. You still owe him opry, a set number of workdays each year. These are the invisible threads that still bind you to the house of your servitude. You return to the villa. The son asks you to help serve at a dinner party, as you are familiar with the household's customs. You put on the servant's tunic, and as you do, the free man you were starting to become feels like a costume, and the slave feels like your true skin. The old habits return with a crushing familiarity. You keep your eyes downcast. You move silently along the walls. The posture of deference, of making yourself small and invisible, settles back onto your shoulders like a heavy cloak you had forgotten you were still wearing. You are not a slave, but here, surrounded by the wealth and power that once owned you, you feel like one. Later, in the city, you learn another lesson. You strike up a conversation with a freeborn merchant in a tavern. He speaks to you as an equal, until he asks of your family name. You give the name of your former master's house, as is the custom for a freedman. The merchant's demeanor instantly changes. A subtle condescension enters his voice, a look of dismissal in his eyes. He no longer sees a man, he sees a former thing. You carry the shadow of the past with you like a brand on your soul, a history that many will never let you forget. You understand now that freedom is not a single moment of walking through a gate. It is a long, arduous journey. Manumission was not the end of your story. It was simply the beginning of a new and profoundly complicated chapter. Years pass. Many years. The obligations to your patron have faded with his own passing. You have made a life for yourself. It is not a grand life, but it is yours. You have a small woodworking shop in a quiet neighborhood. You are old now, your hands gnarled and your back stooped, but they are the hands of a free man. You sit on a stool outside your shop in the warm afternoon sun, watching the world go by. You are, for the first time in your long life, at peace. Then, a smell drifts on the air from a nearby bakery. It is the smell of coarse baking bread, and in an instant, you are no longer an old man sitting in the sun. You are a young man, decades ago, huddled in the dark of the barracks, sharing a piece of that same coarse bread with a friend. You can see his face, a man whose name the world has long forgotten. You can remember the story he was whispering, a tale of his homeland. The memory is not one of terror or pain. It is a memory of connection, of a brief warmth in a world of unrelenting cold. And it is so vivid, so real, it makes your heart ache with a profound and gentle sorrow. You return. To the present, the bakery smell fading, the warm sun on your face. You have learned that this is what your freedom truly means. It has not erased the past. It has not healed the scars on the soul. You still feel a phantom ache in your wrists on cold mornings. A loud, angry voice from a passing cart can still make you flinch. The past is not a country you have left behind. It is a landscape you carry within you. But freedom has given you the quiet, safe space to finally walk through that landscape without fear. You can remember the horrors without being consumed by them. You can remember the moments of connection with a deep, loving sadness. You look down at your hands, at the wrinkles and the scars, and you feel no bitterness. The rage is gone. The terror has faded. All that is left is a quiet, vast sorrow for the boy you were and the life you lost, and a deep, abiding respect for the man who endured. You survived. In a world designed to break you, to use you, to discard. You and forget you, you have survived. And that, you know, is the only victory that has ever truly mattered. And so, our journey ends. Gently now, let the world of ancient Rome fade away. Let the dust of the quarry and the scent of the fields recede, leaving only the quiet of your own space. Come back to the present moment. Feel the weight of your own body, safe and comfortable, the softness of the pillow beneath your head, the gentle rise and fall of your own breathing. The story is over, but its echo remains. An echo of the incredible, heartbreaking resilience of the human spirit, a testament to those who endured. Thank you for taking this difficult journey tonight. Thank you for bearing witness and for listening to these forgotten voices, giving them a space to exist once more. May your own rest be deep and peaceful, and may you awaken with a renewed sense of gratitude and empathy for the quiet comforts of your own life. May your dreams be gentle. Until our next journey together, sleep well.